What is good, people? Welcome to this amazing interview with my fellow guest. Quick intro: this person has been a professional animator for 7 years, experience in working in high profile anime projects and also American animation projects as well across different studios like Nickelodeon, Marvel, Disney, Wit Studios, and of course, MAPPA. So, without any further ado, let's welcome Lee.
Hi.
How you doing? How you
Thanks for
doing?
having me. Pretty
Thanks for
good.
joining.
No, thank you for inviting me. I never anticipated this happening, to be quite honest, so I'm truly grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. So for the people that don't know who you are, can you just give like a quick intro?
Yeah, for sure. So, hello everyone. My name is Li Cree. I'm a professional 2D animator, storyboard artist, overall just animation artist, working in both Japanese and American animation for like 7 years now. In total, but for anime, I've been working like a solid 2 years. Still going strong. Let's see how far I can go. But yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Cool. And then just to, I guess, ease into the meaty part of this interview, how did you get into animation?
Oh, wow. Well, oh, that's such a weighty question. Uh Basically uh when I was like 9 years old, my aunt took my sisters and I to a film festival in New York City, and this was like at the height of Pokemon like craze. So she thought the movie we were seeing was a Pokemon movie, but it wasn't a Pokemon movie. It was a Japanese animated film called Brave Story, and
Hmm.
that movie like changed my life. Uh and I decided, oh, I'm just gonna pursue animation. So, growing up in Jersey, because I'm originally from Jersey City, New Jersey. Um, yeah, I just grew up drawing a lot and just wanting to create animations, but I didn't have a lot of resources to me since my family was like lower income. So I did what I had to do in order to like, get my grades up and get scholarships. And then I went to art college in Massachusetts. And I got my degree in animation, even though it was like not it wasn't worth it at the end, like money wise.
You paying that
like I, s-
student loans?
I mean, luckily I no longer have student loans, and I can thank Marvel
Let's
for that.
go.
So
Let's go.
But yeah, I went to college for animation, got my degree. In my last year of college, that's when I had my very first animation job, which was at Sesame Street. Um, and then after that, yeah, I just like hit the ground running. Like I ended up animating for like YouTubers and stuff, like their intros. Pencilmation, which I still think it's like a channel to this day with like billions of views. I animated for them. I remember helping out a YouTuber named Skyward Wing with his like animation pilot, and then somewhere along the way, uh, I applied to this training program for Nickelodeon, and I didn't think I would get in, but I did, and the rest is kind of history. So now I live in California working on probably one of your favorite shows.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. And in terms of anime specifically, what's like the origin story around that?
Oh, that's such a anticlimactic story, unfortunately. I woke up one day and I received an email from a production assistant from Studio Shaft. And I was like, "What?
Mm-hmm.
What is this?" It was like in pure Japanese, and I'm only like,
Is this a scam?
yeah, that's what I thought. Like I could read it, and I was just like, this is a work consultation email to work on an anime, but I don't know if this is real. So I ended up contacting like two of my friends who we had met online through Twitter, and I had known that they worked in anime like regularly. So I was like, "Hey, I got this email. I don't know if it's legit or not." And they confirmed with me like, "Oh yeah, I know this production assistant. Like it's legit, yada yada yada." And they sort of like walked me through like, yeah, make sure like the rate is good and like they can transfer to your bank and all that type of stuff, like the logistics of it all.
Mhm, mhm.
But yeah, it was very much just like a random cold email one day in February. I'll never forget because I think last month marks that's like the 2-year mark that ever happened. Um, so yeah, like they emailed me and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'd be interested, I guess." And so they told me that they had two titles, and at the time it was the Madoka Magica side story
Mhm.
series, Magica Record, and then at the time it was the unannounced Ruby anime series, and I had no idea what that was. I was like, "Whatever, I like Madoka. I'll draw magical girls." And that's pretty much how I got into anime, where it was like a production assistant found my work online. They emailed me, and I was like, "Okay, I guess this is happening." And I didn't really think much of it at the time. I just thought, this has always been like a childhood dream for me, so I might as well like take the chance while I can. I just didn't anticipate after the episode had came out, it would lead me to 2 years into like just continuously working on animes.
Mm. Would you say, like, I don't know what it's like in Japan, but, like, freelancing, like, overseas, foreign animators, is it like a small world?
Um, it honestly it honestly does feel like a small world similar to how the American like animation industry is. It's a very close-knit community. So like the moment you sort of like break in that way, you're instantly connected to this like small community of artists. Like
Mhm.
I remember at the time like I was already following like a lot of like the really popular like Twitter like webgen animators like Guzu, Zucchini Juice, um oh my god, I'm like forgetting all of their names now because they don't post as much anymore. Oh, Rio was on there, Jim was on there at one point. Like all these people who like worked on Black Clover and all that type of stuff. Um, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. But like the moment I like I guess I started working on anime, it like opened the floodgates to that world and we were all like, "Yeah, I also worked on that show. Yeah, I worked on that show too. Oh, we're coworkers, but we don't know until we find out when the episode airs."
Mhm.
So, it was just it felt like a whole entire like new world. I didn't like from the outside I like would see and be like, "Oh, that's so cool." But once I finally got in, I was like, "Oh, wow. This is actually a lot smaller than I anticipated it to be." So, yeah, I would say it's, like, kinda small, and
Mm.
because of that, like
I feel like
like in any industry or
mhm, mhm.
any job, it's just like, "Be a good person.
Right,
Don't
right,
do
right. I
anything
I was about to say, like,
weird."
reputation is probably, like, really, important.
Yeah, I think in general, just, like, regardless if it's American and or Japanese, because, like, the animation space is so small, your reputation does matter. Not so much as, like, you being, like, squeaky clean and perfect, but being nice to work with goes a very, very long way for both spaces. And I'll say for like Japan, because we are talking about anime here,
Mhm,
at least in my experience, I've realized being like receptive to people and being open and being willing to take feedback and, meet your deadlines, be easy to work with goes like such a long way
mhm.
for you. That I feel like they don't really tell you outright. It's like a soft, like, people skill that you probably need to learn, outside of, like, the actual hard
Mhm,
skill of, like,
mhm.
knowing how to animate. Just, like, maintaining, like, those good relationships and reputations does, like, go very far for you.
And speaking of reputation, I assume that's how you landed JJK, right?
So
Hey, I'm
so
good. I'm
JJ
good with the transitions.
Yeah, you are gonna transition. So, how I got to JJK or MAPPA in general, um, it was quite literally a Twitter DM. Like, I
Mm,
wish it was not. I wish it wasn't that. So, the episodic director for episode 36, Okubo-san. we had been following each other for like a while. Like at this point, it was like at least like 8 months or something. But we like never spoke to each other. We would just like and retweet each other's stuff. Be like, oh yeah, that guy's like really good at drawing, and I'm gonna retweet his stuff, and then he retweets my stuff, and that's it. That's the relationship. Never spoke, never did anything. And it was July of 2023 when he sorry if you can hear my sister's door. Um July of 2023 when he DM'd me, and that's when he asked like, "Oh, hey, I'm directing an episode for this project. Would you be interested in working for it?" And I was like, "Oh, wow, like it's an honor to speak with you. Can I ask like what the project is?"
Wait,
Like
are you guys
kind of
speaking to each other in Japanese at this point?
yeah, we were like messaging each other in Japanese.
Okay.
Um but he's also pretty good at English, so it was like a back and forth of like switching between the two.
Hmm.
So like we were just like messaging each other, and he was like, "Oh, it's for a title called Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't know if you know it." Which like, mind you,
Yeah, this is
I'm pretty sure at
2023.
this point, it's 2023. Like
Wow.
the well anticipated Shibuya arc had been like ready to like come out at some point. So I was like, "Oh yeah, I know that title. Like my sister's a huge fan. I watched the entire first season. Like I love that show. Like I guess I mean, if you're personally asking me to join the production, then yeah, like I don't I guess I'll say yes,
Hmm.
even though at that time I was very aware of like Studio Mappa's reputation,
Mm.
basically. Like I was
Yeah, my question is like, what was your like perceptions of Mappa when you got this at this point when you're um offered this role?
yeah, I'm at that point, I was very like adamant about never working for Studio Mappa. Like my
Mm.
friends would joke with me and be like, "Oh, it's only a matter of time before Studio Mappa comes knocking at your door." And I had like at that point had been watching like Hell's Paradise, and like I saw the progression of like the animation quality from episode 1 versus like the next like 5 episodes, and I'm like, there's something going on here. And I don't know if I want to work for the studio. So I was very
Mm.
like adamant about not working for
Hmm.
Studio
Hmm.
Mappa. Cuz I heard like just heard the rumors of like it's not a good workplace. People are overworked and underpaid. And I was like, I don't want to work for a studio like that. Like I don't want that for myself, but it's so hard. And I guess we can talk about this a little bit more in depth uh I guess later in the interview, but it's really hard to say no when somebody personally like invites you, and
Mm.
it's like an artist that you admire.
Hmm.
Because if it wasn't for Okubo-san, I would have never stepped foot in Studio Mappa. And I feel like that's the case for a lot of like the artists who end up working on Mappa titles, is because of that reputation and the relationships and the respect and admiration that we as artists feels towards like the directors, our fellow co-workers and stuff. It's hard to say no.
Mm.
So when Okubo-san asked this of me, I was like, well, I don't want to work for Mappa, but I want to work under you, and I would love to have the opportunity to work with you and learn from you. And that was the reason why I said yes. Had you told me then that it would then
Mm.
lead to what ended up happening, I think I would have said no, but here we are in the future.
Did you, I guess, relay any of your concerns about Mappa's working condition while you're talking to Okubo, or was it just strictly professional?
It was strictly professional, but also I don't think I would have been able to be quite honest, because there were just moments in time where like I wouldn't hear from anybody for like weeks, and it was because it was all hands on deck to finish that a week's episode, like pushing that out the door. So then all like the attention goes there, but then the other episodes don't get the same attention.
Mhm.
And for those who are not aware of this, like an episodic director, like their role is such a like big role for
Mm, mhm.
just an episode of a show. Like in America, an episodic director has a team of storyboard artists, and he or she or they like direct the storyboard team to storyboard the whole entire episode, and then they oversee like how that episode's trajectory goes from boards to layouts to animation, sound, composite, and so forth. Um, so like imagine all those responsibilities, but without a storyboard team. That's like what the episodic director does. They storyboard the whole entire episode by themselves most of the time. It's very rare that they have like a different storyboard artist who's doing the episode alongside the director. Um, and on top of that, like they're also giving like corrections with the animation director, the Sakon,
Mm. So they're
and
in
they
the
have to give
trenches.
that in the trenches. Like it's just, I don't even think if I had voiced those concerns, it would have mattered anyway. One, because like they already have so much on their shoulders, like what can they do? And then also with the layer of I'm just a foreigner, like working in a Japanese studio. Like I'm not saying that they wouldn't listen to me, but I feel like sometimes if sometimes when I work with anime studios, like they just have their system and they like their system and they don't like change to the system sometimes. Um that's not like every studio I've worked with. But the ones that tend to be a little bit more like traditional, I just like I can't really say anything or impose because I don't want to make it feel like I'm not respecting their customs. Um, but that hasn't stopped me like with other studios to be like, hey, like, can we try this instead?
Mm,
Like,
mhm.
I just think when it came to Mappa, it was truly just like a I don't even know if saying anything would fix the situation. Because literally the communication was so like it was there and then it wasn't, and then it would come back and then on again. So
Got you. Let's add some meat to these bones. So Okubo, who was the episodic director, he approached you for episode 36 as a LO, correct?
yeah, yeah.
For the viewers that don't know the terminology, you gave the definition of episodic director, but what does LO mean? Or like Genga?
Oh, LO. Yeah, yeah. LO stands for layout, and that's basically the stage where as the name suggests, you roughly lay out like the character's placement, oftentimes the background and like the acting or like that particular cut. And then once you do the layout, you hand that back, and then the episodic director and then the animation director do their corrections. And usually, the person who does the layout for those cuts gets it back, and then you do what's called the Genga or original drawing, or the American animation equivalent would be keyframe animation. Um, so that's basically you take the corrections and then you clean up the drawings, you make sure you got all your shading and all that type of stuff, like it's all unified, and then that gets sent out again, possibly for more corrections, where then it enters like second key animation, in betweens, which is doga, and then after that is said and done, it goes into cleanup, color, composite, or composite is I think photography is what they call it over there, but the English equivalent would be like compositing and post production. So yeah.
That was very succinct and better than anything I would be able to come up with. But so
When many people ask you like what's it like working in anime, you just get really good at like summarizing everything.
I could tell. I can tell it's not your first rodeo explaining that. So I guess just spanning out the timeline, you get approached by Okubo. What were your sentiments? Were you just like mixed feelings? I'm excited, but at the same time kind of anxious, or were you like it's go time?
I was at the start, I was excited, slightly anxious because like of the whole reputation that MAPPA had created at this point.
Mhm.
But I was slightly more optimistic because it was a very big title.
Mm.
And generally speaking, in animation as like a whole, when you have a huge like IP or that's short for intellectual property, so like large franchises similar to like Harry Potter, Sonic, Mario, when you have like a really popular IP like Jujutsu Kaisen, in my head, I assumed that well, because this title is so big, surely they would have invested like more time and money into it. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Um, but that's why I was like, okay, I'm like a bit apprehensive, but I feel like this should go well because they can't afford for Jujutsu Kaisen to not look good. Like they simply just cannot.
Yeah, there's too
It
many
sells a lot.
stakeholders, investors, a lot is riding on this
Yeah.
project.
Yeah, a lot is riding on it. And not to mention like it's coming off like the heels of Chainsaw Man, which like visually speaking was amazing. So it's like there's
Mm.
no way that they're not gonna like at least have a very appropriate schedule. Um so yeah, it was like July, end of July, and then I started in August. Um and uh yeah, I was like, okay, this feels pretty good. Like the amount of time they're giving me is slightly more than what I'm used to. I think they gave me like the entire month of August to do my layout for episode 36.
Mhm.
Um, which is like generally like a little bit more time than I'm used to. So I was like, okay, I feel like this is fine. I can do this. The episode doesn't air until October. This is normal. Okay. We got this. This is fine. And it wasn't until like I think it was like end of September. Yeah, end of September because at that point, they had asked me to work on episode 39. That's when everything started to like go haywire with like the 24-hour deadlines and stuff. So I don't know what happened along the way.
Wow. So just to take a step back, before like shit hit the fan, if you want to say that, what did like an average day look like in terms of when things were kind of calm when you were animating for JJK?
I mean, like the average day, I would get like 3 to 4 cuts done.
Mhm.
And it was just like nothing too crazy. I did have a couple what's called priority cuts, which means like if you get a priority cut, you have to finish those cuts first because either they're using it for like a preview or a PV trailer, or it's just a special shot and they really want to have that one done first for some strange reason.
Mm.
Um, so outside of like that, it was pretty average. Like I was doing like 3 to 4 cuts a day. I felt like I had enough time to do everything and implement like look at the storyboards, listen to the audio cuz that was the first time ever I worked on an anime where they recorded the audio beforehand, which was very
Mm.
very nice for like an animator cuz it helps inform like the acting choices a character is making in that moment. So I felt like it was really calm and paced nicely. Like, okay, I'm gonna finish these 3 to 4 cuts today, and I feel like I can spend a little bit more time on these cuts because the acting is a little bit more particular because of the voice acting I'm hearing. So it felt like it was fine at that moment in the month of August. Like, yeah, this is chill. I don't know what people were talking about with Studio Map, but like this is probably it was just probably a project thing, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's pretty much how it felt at that time and moment. It was very chill and very relaxed and very much like, oh wow, I get to work on this really popular show and it's actually quite a good time so far.
Was this your full-time job or were you just doing this after like your other like American animation work?
After,
Gotcha.
um, I yeah, I was working full time. The time where was I? I was at A24 at this point, working as a layout artist for a different animated production. but that production was pretty lax in itself. So I felt like, yeah, it wasn't too bad.
So like after work, you would spend like several hours just knocking out some cuts.
Mm, yeah, for the most part.
And I mean, this is a very broad question, but how long does a cut usually take you?
Oh god, it really depends on the shot.
Let let's say like a super action scene and then like a simple like dialogue cut. Like what's like the range?
Okay. So a simple dialogue cut, I can bust that out in like 45 minutes to an hour. And so if I had like 3 of those, I can get it done in like 3 hours. If it was like a complex like action shot, depends on what's happening in there, but I could easily be like 4 or 5 hours. 4 or
Mm,
5 hours of work cuz I wouldn't do it all in one shot. Like I would pace it out in a way of like, okay, I need to find the rhythm in this one shot. And then I'll like find the rhythm first, and then I'll do like a very roughly bad like drawing pass to see like if the rhythm works and then tweak it that way.
mhm.
And then I would go in and actually start tying things down like, okay, this is where all like the bodies are going. And then within that, thinking about like the acting and everything. So it could be like 4 to 5 hours over the course of like multiple days. For JJK, I think the cut that took me the longest like took me like 8 hours to do. um, and it was like, what was that shot? There's a shot of him running behind a bus, like a bus stop, and then like he's skipping and stuff.
Mm,
I
mhm.
did that shot. That one took me 8 hours to do.
Wow.
Um, and it was just and it's like 10 seconds long, I think.
Damn. So like you would space that out over multiple days.
Yeah, well, for that one specifically in the layout phase, I did that. But for the Genga, I had to do that all in one day. Because the at that point when they had given my work back for Genga, it was like 24-hour, 48-hour deadlines. So over the course of a couple days, it was totally fine because I had the time to actually sit there and think about it. But when it came down to like doing the keyframe animation, I sat in front of my computer for 8 hours straight. I didn't even eat lunch that day. Um, and I just animated it straight because I knew that they needed that cut by like that night since it's a 16-hour like difference between California and Japan. So yeah.
I mean, kind of going on a tangent, you kind of touched upon this in your video, but when it comes to anime work, the pay is per cut, right? Not per
Yes.
hour.
Not per hour, yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, I know,
Wow.
right?
Can you just can you break that down for the audience that can't really like wrap their heads around that? And maybe like do a difference between like American animation and Japanese anime.
Yeah, so for the most part, in America for animation, we are paid by like the hour. So we have hourly rates which are determined by our animation union. And I think like as a storyboard artist, the most you can make like on a week is like $2,400 per week before taxes are taken out. So that's like up in the like upper 40s, low 50s range if I'm doing my math correct. Um like per hour. For anime, you're paid by the cut, you're not paid by the hour. So a lot of the times in anime, the cuts are like sort of like a flat rate and they can change depending on things like are there a lot of characters in there? Is there very complex like background animation? Or oftentimes what I've experienced is the deadline is so short, that's why they're paying more. Um so, yeah, like and it doesn't also account for, like, how long and complex well, really how long the shots are, so that shot I just talked about where I spent 8 hours on, it was, like, 10 seconds long at least, but I only got 2,500 yen for that cut. It's 10 seconds. I worked on it for 8 hours. I'm pretty sure everybody watching this can like go on their calculator and do the math. Like, wait, what? So that means per hour you were making this?
Dude, I feel like people on
So
like Fiverr for like the freelance animation, they're getting paid more.
yeah, I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised. It's just like I guess I understand if like the standard of living in Japan is more reasonable than California, like Los
Hmm.
Angeles. But even then, I feel like in comparison to like American studios, that's like I said in my video, that's like not even borderline. Like you're starting to break laws, like labor laws in general. Um, Not that America is any better. We also have our like loopholes and how we don't want to pay artists and stuff. But it's just not as upfront. I'll say.
Why do why do animators accept that then? I mean, for Japanese animators, I know for a lot of them, it's like a means of survival, so they don't really have a choice. But for like freelance animators, are they just doing this for like a resume builder, or like what, or
Um,
does the motives kind of differ?
I think the motives kind of differ in a way
Okay.
because depending on where you live, like I guess like depending on where you live, it works for you. There are definitely some people who do it for resume. There are definitely some people who just do it for the clout. Um, I do think I think the unfortunate truth is that we do it because we're so passionate about it, and I think the studios and companies have been very good at using that and exploiting us at the end of the day. And this is just like animation as a whole. I think it's very easy to take somebody's passion and exploit that in a way where it feels like yeah, it sucks, but you're the only person who gets to make this type of thing. You should be grateful for
Mm.
that.
Sort of like gaslighting you a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. It also doesn't help, like I mentioned before, with like the reputation and like the working relationships and the admiration. Like when you put all of those things together, especially in a culture like Japan where like social hierarchy in terms of like age and experience are like very, very prevalent. Um, like you take that aspect, you take the passion, and then you take like the work culture of that, and then also like the collective, like group, like perspective that the whole country kind of has. Like we think for the group and for the greater good rather than like the individual and what works for
Mm.
you. It's like kind of a perfect like storm of like it just breeds that naturally. And even I like on JJK, like I experienced that myself. I was like, wow, I never thought I'd ever find myself in this situation. Um, but here I am. I'm neck deep in it and I don't know how to get out of it. So, and I can only imagine if like that's what I'm feeling as an American, I can only imagine what it's actually like there in person in the studio in that culture. It's probably really hard to say no. And I think for a lot of us like who do work on anime as like freelancers internationally, we just love it. We just love like to be able to tell those stories because we probably grew up with them
Hmm.
and they probably impacted us in a way where we felt like we weren't seen before. And to have the ability to be a part of that, it's really enticing. It's quite like it's a big temptation, I won't lie. I hope that answered your question though.
Right. No, it did. And like I can tell like when animators, like freelance animators, especially like foreign animators, when they post on Twitter, there's like a certain level of pride when they go like, "Oh, I worked on Black Clover, I worked on Bleach." Like there it's kind of like a kind of a celebration of sorts.
Yeah, yeah. Because nowadays it's like I'm pretty sure like growing up we were all like, wow, how can I work on that type of thing? Um, but now that anime's become so mainstream, like the fact that I can work on an anime, it makes it feel much more plausible and accessible to like the average person, basically. Because there was a point in time where I was like, yeah, I'm never gonna work on anime. There's just no possible way. They only hire people who are Japanese. I'm not Japanese. There's no way I could ever work on anime. But lo and behold, I was wrong. But yeah, it does at that moment feel like a wow, an achievement of sorts, because not many people can sit there and say like, yeah, I worked on this very popular show. Not very many people can say that in general.
Hmm. So the reason why I kind of reached out to you for about this interview is obviously because you dropped a semi-viral video that was called "I worked on Jujutsu Kaisen." So my first question is, what compelled you to drop this video? Because going back to your earlier point of reputation, it's a small world. I'm sure this video is getting passed around. I want you to break it down for us.
Yes, this is till this day, I still question it myself. I'm like, why did I do that? No, so the honest truth is at the time, I I think at the time I had shared to the public I was working on Jujutsu Kaisen, and also at the same time I had also announced I had worked on like the Castlevania Nocturne series on Netflix as an animator. And so I ended up receiving a lot of like DMs from random people about like how that was possible. Like truly it was like mind-boggling for just random strangers on the internet. And so that's when the idea came to me. It was like, okay, I'm tired of having to see these questions. I'm just gonna put it
Mm,
all in a video.
mhm,
And we'll explain what it's like working as an animator for anime. It didn't have to be Jujutsu Kaisen. It truly didn't have to be. It just so happened it was the only other anime outside of Castlevania, because I couldn't release that information since it was for like it was NDA. I'm not allowed to. Um, so it was the only anime I was working at the time, and I was like, you know what? It's just Jujutsu Kaisen. People will know like what this is. I can do this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also they were very like the production assistants and the episodic directors I worked with, they were very like open to me like sharing my work. Like
mm.
especially when like the episodes aired, they were like, "Hey, can you like make a little illustration for like your participation and stuff?" And like, "Oh yeah, you can post your work online and all that stuff. You can use it for your portfolio and resume." They were very open about it.
Wait, this is for your Twitter or for your actual video?
It was just for my Twitter and
Okay,
Instagram and
okay.
stuff. Um, But then later on, they were like, "Yeah, you can do whatever you want with this since it's done." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." Um, but yeah, it didn't have to be that show. It just so happened it was the only one I was working on at the time. I just wanted to answer people questions like, "Oh, how did I break into anime? Like, what's it like? What is the pay?" Like, the very like general ideas and stuff. It was only until like by like end of September, October, when everything started, like the production meltdown happened, I on accident recorded like the whole entirety of like the production meltdown, and then I saw
Wait, what do you mean when you said you recorded the whole production meltdown? What does that mean?
like I was recording like my entire experience on the show, and it like I ended up experiencing the production meltdown myself, and like going from this is like chill and well paced to very chaotic and very tight deadlines. Like I ended up, not that I intended to, I ended up recording like my whole entire experience, like firsthand experiencing like the production meltdown that was happening on the show. And then when animators started talking about it online, not even like the freelance ones, but the Japanese ones, which was like shocking to me
I mean,
because I feel like,
Okubo was very
yeah, I
vocal.
know, right? I was
Wow.
like,
Well, okay, wait.
Okubo.
We're going on a tangent, but what was your reaction when like he kind of like I mean he had his own meltdown as well, and this is a animator who was an episodic director and someone you respect.
I was like, I was genuinely worried,
Mm.
genuinely concerned and
Did
worried
did you
because
did you
like
DM him or?
I honestly I was so neck deep into work, I couldn't.
Mm,
I like couldn't. I just saw that and I was like, the fact that even you're experiencing this, it's like it just felt like it was truly just like a, oh my god, I have something on my hands that I never wanted. And then, obviously at that point, then the public caught on, fans caught on, and then a lot of like thoughts and hateful things were starting to be spread, and I was like, oh my god, oh my goodness, I can't go back because I've already like made a post on all my social medias that I'm recording this video, and I told them it would drop in a certain time period. Oh no, oh no.
So you're just
So it
stressing
was,
out.
I was so stressed the entire time. Like,
Mm,
I was truly afraid to release that video.
mm.
I was petrified to ever release it because one, I didn't want to catch like a law defamation suit because like Japan's really serious about those types of things. Um, two, I didn't also want to spread more hate in
Right.
general. And then three, anime fans are very passionate about like
They can spin
anime.
stuff in their to match their own agendas.
Yeah, it's just like there were so many things at that time and moment where I was like, "Oh my god, I I have, I guess what you would say, like the golden egg in terms of like this is gonna be a viral hit. This is gonna get people
Mm.
talking, people looking." But for me, it was like, oh god, I don't want this. I really don't want this. I have the golden egg in my hand and I would rather give it to somebody else. Um, but I I still felt like at the end of the day that one, I I should follow through
Mm.
with what, people are expecting out of this thing, but also too like, hey, if I have this golden egg in my hand, in what ways can I bring like awareness to the situation? And if it brings enough awareness, how can we direct that to better solutions? Which is why in my first video I mentioned like the animators dormitory because I've been following them for years,
Oh, they're amazing.
and yeah, they're like amazing and they're really trying their best to you know build a new foundation for like the for animators so that they can live like livable wages and have better production schedules and stuff. And that's why I was like, yeah, you should watch their videos and support them because I'm just an American working on anime. They're actually people who live there and experience it every single day of their life. Um to like the ninth degree, and they deserve your attention. If I have to be like, I guess like the highway of sorts to for you to guys get to that destination, then I'm fine by that, but I don't want to be the destination. I'm okay with being like the vessel to transfer that over. But yeah, that's that was pretty much my thought process. It was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be just like an educational, informational thing. I ended up experiencing what happened on season two. I recorded my whole entire emotional turmoil throughout of it, and then animators started talking about it, public started talking about it, and it just became like a, oh god, I don't know how this is going to go. I really don't. But I'm glad that at least like I guess it was positively received. I don't know. I don't know YouTube. That video came out and industry professionals or my peers had spoke to me about it. They were like, "Wow, it makes me like a little bit more grateful and humbled that yeah, there are problems here too, but it could be that bad." And also um sort of empathizing with our like vendor studios and not realizing like, yeah, we do kind of have it better and they're probably receiving that type of treatment and pay. Um, so yeah, outside of that, the public reception, I guess, was okay. I don't know. If anything, I just as long as Okubo retweeted it, which is the one thing he did, that's all I cared
Oh
about. If
shit!
he
He
retweeted
he
it, I
retweeted it?
he re- he re- he retweeted my
Yo,
my video. I was like,
got
you
the
know what? That's
cosign.
it. I was like, that's it. That's fine. That's all I needed from him. That's all I needed. Which made me happy at the end of the day because I was like, yeah, we went to the trenches together. Um, yeah, and if anybody's curious if like that got me blacklisted from MAPPA or anything, it did not. It didn't get me blacklisted. In fact, I want to say like 3 days after I released it, they had asked me to work on a different show for them. I was like, well, I guess it
They
didn't
probably
matter.
even see it. Lee's video, that's a pebble in the ocean. We don't really care.
We don't care about that. Also, they just have so many titles that I feel like they're just neck deep in like trying to get stuff done. So
Nice. Well, hold that thought. We're gonna do a quick break and then come right back to the interview.
yeah.
What is good, people? Back from our break. We're jumping into what probably a lot of people click on this video for. Lee, take us to September 25th to 27.
Oh my god.
There was a very
Oh,
notable period in your video where it's straight up you had sunglasses indoors and you were just like speechless. So I know it might be kind of traumatic, but take the viewer back to that day and just let the people know what went down.
so September 25th. It's the deadline for episode 39. I don't have the 3D layout for one of my cuts. I'm technically over the deadline, and I have no idea what I'm gonna do about it. And so I think I remember saying, like, I'll just finish the last one that I can, and we'll see what
Wait,
happens.
I'm sorry. What's the
Um,
normal, I guess, time that they should give you with the 3D layout?
so, oh gosh, they should honestly, if you're planning and managing properly, it should all be given to you on your kickoff meeting. So,
So back in
like,
July?
what's a good example? Yeah, back in July.
Wow.
Um, so what's a good show that I can say that did this for me? Oh, um, it's another Studio Mappa production. Well, yeah, I can say it's announced. So like the Lazarus production,
Hmm.
which is by like the creator for Cowboy Bebop, and then I think they're collaborating with somebody from John Wick. Like that production, they gave me all the 3D layouts right at the kickoff meeting. And if there were any changes, they were very immediate, like to contact me about it. But I attribute that to like one, it's not like just a Japanese production. It's like an American Japanese collaboration. So there's obviously like more money being handled in that regard. Um so usually if they if it's from not decently, I should have had like all the 3D layouts um by the time I had kicked off on like that episode. And so yeah, it was also I think I mentioned like constant like back and forth be like, "Hey, is the 3D layout for this cut done?" And I would just like hear nothing from them. And that's how I found out that it was becoming like an all hands on deck situation where everybody's focus would be on the week's episode and then everybody else's episodes were not getting like the same amount of attention. So, yeah, September 25th, day of the deadline. I still have one cut I need to do left. And then I didn't
Wait,
it
wait.
didn't get done.
September
I
25th. What was the deadline? It was like 24 hours, right?
It was like 24 hours, yeah.
Wow.
It was the day of the deadline and I still did not have the one thing I needed. I had at that point kept sending in cuts almost every other day, heard nothing from anybody. And then September 26th, I tried again, still nothing. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Wait, tried again. You mean like reached out to the PA?
Yeah, I reached out to my production assistant again. I
Wait,
didn't hear
sorry.
anything from
For
them.
the viewers that don't know what a PA is, can you give a quick definition?
Oh yeah, oh gosh, a production assistant in anime is different from a production assistant in America. The production assistant basically like when they're often the people who uh source the talent. So if you ever get like an email or a DM from like an anime studio, chances are it's from a production assistant. They have the duties of like managing all like the art teams and making sure that everything gets handed in on time, or sometimes oftentimes chasing the talent to make sure they get their work done. Um they're basically like an errand boy, I guess you can
Like
say.
the
Like they do a
in
lot of,
between person.
yeah, like the in between person to be like, here's this person's work, here's that person's work. I'll contact this person. It's a lot of like management, like
Mm-hmm.
heavy management job. And I thank you to all of my PAs who I ever worked with because you guys are truly the backbone. I don't know how you guys do it because I couldn't do it. Like the moment an artist decided not to send me my work, be like, that's it. I can't do it anymore. I'm done.
Yeah, they
So I
probably
tried.
have to do a lot of like bribing and like probing and giving like therapy sessions and whatnot.
Yeah, I feel so bad for them. I think they need therapy. I think they need
Mm.
the world because we take advantage of like the production side of any project. Like we take advantage of that and we don't realize how much hard work that they do just to make sure the artists are staying on track.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, September 26th, I tried contacting them again. Nothing, radio silence. And then the 27th, that's when one I received a message from a different production assistant about needing Genga or Negan. Basically, they gave my cuts back to me for episode 36. And at this point, episode 36 airs in like god, like 2 weeks or something. Um and
Wow.
like I mentioned and like I mentioned before, Genga is like the keyframe animation. You still have to do like second key in between color, composite, sound. So this is like at least within 2 weeks before the broadcast of the show.
Is that so that's when you knew like there's a production meltdown.
Yes, that was the moment where I was like, oh no, I don't think this is gonna go well. Because the only other time that has happened to me was for a Baruto episode I worked on, but that was like a month before the broadcast.
Mm.
So there was still at least a little bit more time for them to do anything. But it was like 2 weeks within the broadcast, and that was the moment when I realized, oh, this isn't how it should be, and this is probably going to be a roller coaster ride.
Holy
And
crap.
then yeah, and then God, I remember getting the 3D layout for my last for episode 39. I knocked that out in 45 minutes, and then the next day when I was going to finish the 2 cuts they needed me to do for episode 36, I got hit with another round for episode 36, this time's 3 cuts. And I was like, "Okay,
Wait,
I can
three
do
three
that."
cuts on top of the original emergency.
Yeah,
Wow.
yes, 3. And I was like, "Okay, I can do that." I get the first 2 done within that day, and then I'm like, "Okay, tomorrow I'll do the 3." And then the next day, it was another 2, and it became a rapid succession of back to back to back to back to back. Um, we need these cuts by this day. 24 hours, 48 hours, 2 cuts, 3 cuts, 5 cuts.
And in the
Um,
span of what, like a week?
in a week. Yeah. And then yeah, at that point, towards the end of like the halfway point of October, towards the end of October, the same thing happened to episode 39, where 2 weeks before the broadcast, it became the rapid like hand in hand in the work back, give it back to us within 24, 48 hours, repeat. rinse and repeat for like a week straight. And honestly, I have no idea. I wish I knew. I have absolutely no idea how they were getting it done. I really don't know how they were doing it.
They probably like sacrificed some like children or something.
I guess so, cause
They joined the Illuminati.
I guess cause even then, like for what the show is, like what the final product that everybody got, in my opinion, I don't think y'all got the product that you deserved,
Mm,
but for the circumstances that were happening,
it's
it
impressive.
is it's impressive. It's impressive that it looked like that in the first
Mm,
place. Like we could have had something a lot different, and I think that's just a testament to like everybody who's on the project who was passionate about it and wanted to like deliver as much as they could. But at the same time, I'm like, "Yeah, but what are you doing? I thought I thought we had this I thought we had this down. Oh no." Oh yeah, that's like September 25th to the 27th was like, oh my god. I think this is gonna turn into something I
mm,
was not anticipating.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I had been recording my experience up until this point, and that was the turn of like, well, we're going on a roller coaster ride. We'll see if I get to the end of it. And I did, but I don't know if it was worth it at the end of the day.
What was the internal dialogue you were having? Because this is on top of like your day job, right?
Yeah, so actually at this point, I had finished, was it? Yeah, at this point by October, I had finished my contract with A24. So, um I was just like at this point, I was working full time on like Jujutsu Kaisen because of the rapid
Mm,
deadlines I was getting, but I wasn't getting paid a full-time job.
mm-hmm.
I was working as if it was a
Right,
full-time
right.
job. So, yeah,
Wait, for
like
these emergency cuts, are you getting paid more or is it just like the same rate?
so for Jujutsu Kaisen, it was the same rate. But oftentimes, like whenever like for comparison, because it's the longest anime I've worked on, Bleach, like anytime they've had me do emergency cuts, they would like pay me more because they understand that like this is emergency. It's unreasonable for us to ask you to do this in a very short time.
Mm-hmm. And it's not on you.
So they it's yeah, yeah. So like I was paid more in that aspect, but also there's also the context that I've been working with that show and studio since the first season of Bleach. The Thousand Year Blood War, not the original show. If I worked on the original show, I would be like very old, which would be very funny. Um, but because I had been working with them for 2 seasons straight, one, they knew they could rely on me, and two, like, yeah, we're willing to pay you more because you do good work and we know you can hit the deadline. I was like, that's fine.
Mm,
That's totally fine. Because most of the times what ends up happening when I get emergency cuts is because either an animator got sick or something, or somebody just completely went radio silent and they don't know how to get a hold of them and they need somebody to finish the work. So I tend to be that person to like fill in those spots, to be like, I got you. Don't worry about it. Just give me a good set of cuts next time on the next episode. Like it's like that kind of exchange. So for Jujutsu Kaisen, no, I was not paid more. I wasn't paid more. I was paid the same rate throughout the whole entirety of my experience.
wait, why though? Didn't you ask them like why aren't you giving me like a higher rate for the emergency cuts? Or was it just like you're so tunnel vision that that was like an afterthought?
It was an afterthought,
Okay.
definitely. At that time and moment, like I could, even though I'm like all the way like here in America and they're all the way in Japan, I could feel the distress, if that makes any sense, from my production assistants. And it was just like, I don't want to add another problem to your situation right now. I feel
Mm,
like you need a moment of reprieve, and I'm just gonna say yes because I feel like that will make you feel a little bit less stressed. Even though I'm gonna be stressed too. We're gonna be stressed together. We're gonna stress bond. We're gonna trauma bond over this. Um, yeah, definitely now, after the fact, I should have been like, hey, if you're gonna ask this from me,
Mm.
you like pay me a little bit more. At the moment, I was too tunnel vision, and I I also was just like, I think we all were just feeling it and being like, we just gotta get this episode out of the door. We don't know how we're doing it, but
You gave
we
a
just gotta do
yeah,
it.
you gave a rundown of what your daily schedule looked like when things were calm, but can you give us, like, a quick 24-hour schedule when this whole thing happened?
Yeah, so during the time where like I was still working at 824, like just at the tail end, what the average my day would look like would be like 9 to 5, work at 824, 6 to 8, eat dinner, maybe play Animal Crossing. 8 to like 12, 12 or 1 a.m., work on Jujutsu Kaisen. 2 a.m., go to sleep, wake up, and repeat the cycle over and over again. And then when I stopped working at 824, it was like 9 to 5, Jujutsu Kaisen. 6 to 7, eat dinner but don't play Animal Crossing. 8 to 2 a.m., Jujutsu Kaisen all over again. Go to bed maybe at 3 a.m., and then start the cycle all over again.
That's over how many
So,
hours? That's over 12 hours, right?
yeah, I was working way more than like a 40-week like thing. I don't.
I guess my obvious question was, like, what was your, like, motivation to, like, push you through?
I think my motivation at that time was, God, you know what? It's so hard to say because I was so emotionally distraught at that point. I think a huge component of it was to not let down, you know, the people I was working with, whether it was the episodic director, the animation director, the production assistants. Because at this point, like by my second episode, because I worked on 3 episodes for season 2, by like my second episode, I guess like we really hit it off, me and the production assistants, and we just developed a really nice relationship. So I think that was the thing that was keeping me going, was like thinking about the people who are physically there and knowing that if I don't do my part, it's going to fall on somebody else. And for all I know, that person could be already overworked and overtired. And I don't want to add that to their plate. So yeah, I think it just came from guilt. Like to be quite honest, just guilt.
You're too kind of a
Um
person. If I was in your position, I would start, like, flipping tables and become a Karen, start asking for the manager.
oh no. I think in the long run, like it definitely like I think we've bonded. Because
Mm.
I think like after my third episode, that's how I ended up getting to work on Lazarus. I was like, oh, I thought only like the high profile people could work on this show. Because it's like a really like the names attached to it are like very big. And then also like I after after my third episode, I got to work on Buchigiri, which is airing currently as of this recording. Um, which I was like, whoa, I love this character designer because she did the designs for Skate the Infinity. And I love that anime because it's so chaotic. And so like I feel like in the long run, it like it built her like relationships that I think is sort of like irreplaceable in a way.
Mm.
Um, but I'll also admit that like because of Jujutsu Kaisen, like the name that it has, I ended up working on animes I never thought I'd ever get to work on. Like, um, not too long after the season 2 had finished airing, I was approached to work on what is it called? Mushoku Tensei. And I was like, "Wow, I never thought I'd get to work on that show. I'm so used to just doing action battle stuff. I get to do
Mm,
fantasy?
mhm,
Holy shit." Um, like, that type of stuff, where that's the type of animes I would love to work on because I just vibe with that better.
mhm, mhm.
Um, I was like, "Wow, this is so cool. I never I never thought this could happen to me." Um, and, like, I'm currently in discussion right now to, like, be an animation director for a studio I worked with before, and I don't think I would have
Oh,
ever
that's
Yeah,
crazy.
like, I'm just like, "Oh, I don't know if I wanna be a Sakan because I don't think I'm at the level to do that yet."
Mhm,
But I've worked with the studio before. I really loved working with them. Um, and the fact that they're contacting me this early when the show doesn't air until years from now, I'm like, okay, that must mean you have a pretty good schedule
mm,
on your
mhm.
hands. So I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but I won't lie that working on Jujutsu Kaisen did open opportunities for me that otherwise I thought was just like a pipe dream or just like not feasible. Just as like I'm just a girl from Jersey. I'm no one special. I never thought this would happen.
Right. No, I feel like I mean, it's a cliche saying, like, they gave you lemon and you made lemonade. You
Yeah,
made the most of your
made
situation.
lemonade.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff, like, out of your control, but you're like, "No, I gotta be professional about this, focus on what I can do, and then, cross that bridge when I get there."
Yeah. And I mean for my current job that I have over at Nickelodeon, um I also won't lie that Jujutsu Kaisen played a part in that. I can't talk too much about it cuz it's NDA. American studios are always under NDA, but definitely like wow, had I not worked on that show, I don't know if I would be where I am right now in terms of like where I work full time. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, like you said, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Um, and just do the best you can, I guess.
Let me ask you this, did your love for animation change when you were going through this? Were you, like, questioning, like, your passion? Because like, I feel like you were kind of dealing with burnout too, right?
Yeah, I did deal with very early stages of burnout. And thankfully I had friends and family who like they're much more better at noticing the patterns than I am for my burnout. So I was lucky enough to have friends and family to sit me down and be like, "Yo, you're not being a human right now."
Mm,
But surprisingly, it didn't take out my passion. If anything, it made me reinvigorated in a way where I feel like, "Hey, what can I do to help change this?" And not like change everything overnight, but maybe being that one first like ripple in a wave that will eventually form. It like invigorated me in that way. Because now that like 2 years working into anime, even though I still feel like I have a lot to learn, I think like having the bare bones of like, okay, this is how the pipeline works. What can I do as an American to help, I guess, like show them like, hey, could we try this in a different way? Or could we implement it this way? Like, I'm not outright trying to change their system, but introducing other alternatives to like something that at this point might be broken. And it's very hard to admit that something's broken and wanting to fix it or build something entirely new.
mm.
So it's very, very small, but I think that's what I got out of like JJK overall. Like, definitely, I had early stages of burnout. Definitely had that. I needed to recover. I'm now in therapy because of it. But um I definitely had like a newfound like passion of like I guess sort of like outreach and also education, which like that's what the video hopefully turned out to be, of like, hey guys, I want to make sure you guys know that there are people who make your favorite TV shows, movies, video games, books. Like there are still people behind it at the end of the day. And I know to the general public, you just see the product, and that might be easy for you to like, not think about it. But there are people here who work very, very hard, and they deserve, livable wages, appropriate amounts of time to do the job, and also like recognition and acknowledgement for like the very hard work that they do. Like like the I think the Crunchyroll Anime Awards were like
Let's not talk about that.
this weekend or so. I know. First off, I just need to say why, but when I saw
someone did a layout of all the awards, and it's like JJK for like 15 different categories.
which like I don't know if that's deserved, but I don't know if that's the correct way to do it. But like when I saw like Goso get like winning the best director award and seeing him so happy, I'm like, that's what we need. We need him. We need that little sliver of hope, like recognizing there are people at the end of the day who make these things for you. Like granted, yes, I think the anime awards were quite a choice, but that was like the one moment, because I think like the public was so aware of how the production went, and all like the people who worked on the production obviously experienced what had happened, that was a moment of like, yeah, thank you for recognizing that was a really hard job to do. And I don't know if anybody could have done it, but we managed. So to answer your question, it surprisingly didn't kill my passion, but it did like light passions in other avenues that are not necessarily like art related.
You started to think more bigger picture after that experience.
Yeah, very much bigger picture. Is like, okay, this is something that is so much bigger than one person. So it just, it really just opens your eyes. And you're just like, wow, okay, well. And I just hope that at least with the video and the next part, that it can help further like inform people, you know, about the media that they consume. And even though sometimes it might be a little bit uncomfortable to think about, oh yeah, I love Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, but I'm very aware of the working conditions that happened. Like that's okay. It's okay that you have a conscience. Like that's fine. As long as you know. And you can find ways to support the artists themselves, which is always very hard to do, because Patreon, like coffees, Kickstarters, and all that type of stuff, or like supporting their YouTube channel, supporting their personal like commissions and stuff. Like I get it, like not everybody has like the money in the world, but doing your
simple comment on like Twitter or like social
exactly,
media.
yeah, like you'd be surprised how far that goes too. Like work within your means to like show your support for like the actual workers who make the things move and breathe. Because it's not necessarily like the CEO of a company. Like they're just the CEO. They're not sitting there every day drawing frame by frame Gojo's beautiful eyelashes. Like they're not. They're not doing that. I'm doing that. Actually, I didn't get to do that. That's like my one
Oh, come
regret.
on.
I didn't get to draw Gojo. I
Yeah.
didn't draw Gojo.
I mean, would you take a position if there's like a season 3? Would you take that opportunity if they offered it to you?
Oh God. At this point where I am, I truly don't know. I truly don't know if I would say yes or no to working on season 3, because I was very adamant about not working with MAPPA, and I ended up doing it anyway. So I can't trust my own judgment in that regard.
And no, I respect that. That's a very honest answer.
Yeah, it's like I truly wish I had a very like yeah, no. I truly just don't know. I I feel like at this time and point, it's so like far ahead in terms of like when they'll probably start production again that I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think
Yeah,
about it.
let's
Like I'm just
focus today
I'm
on today.
it's like let's just focus on the ones that we need to right now.
I mean, when you said like you had a close relationship with your PA, I know like through the grapevines that there is like a Discord group with like other foreign animators, right? LOs that worked on JJK. Were you part of that group as well?
Oh no. I don't think I'm well, that depends. I'm not part of that group. Or like if it's like a specific Discord for that, I am not a part of that. Usually what ends up happening is what ended up happening was we'd announce that we'd all announce like, "Hey, I worked on this episode," and then we found out like, "I follow you. You worked on this episode? Cool." And then it'd be like in DMs. Like I remember one guy I was talking with, he worked on the same episodes as me,
Mm.
and he was asking about like what the heck? Like how'd you end up here? And then started asking me like the differences between like the pay and stuff between American and Japanese animation. I feel bad because I think I coerced him into not working in anime anymore.
Oh
Um
shoot.
not that I coerced him, but it was just like
Yeah,
I was
he
very upfront and honest
mm. I mean that's important. Like
about
you can't be ignorant about stuff like that. It's better to like know like the full
yeah.
scope of things.
Yeah, I was just like, "Oh yeah, for like this show animated on for America, I had this amount of time and they paid me this much." And they also gave me an extension because I was like away at a different country or something. Like like it was always like that where like we found out that we worked with each other but we had no idea. And then we would just like talk about it a little bit. And obviously we'd have the grievances of like, yeah, man, I don't know what the schedule is doing. I don't know if I can do this anymore, like that type of stuff. But I'm not part of any
Mhm.
of like the big like discords or anything. I'm a very like I don't really do well in those
Yeah, yeah,
situations.
you just like keep it to yourself.
Yeah, I'm very much like I keep to myself. I have like my circle of like friends that I'm really close with. I will like chat with like online friends and stuff. But yeah, I'm not very much I'm not really like good at those like large online settings to be quite honest.
Mhm. That's fair. I mean, the reason why I brought it up, you kind of answered the question is like, I'm assuming that you like try to like talk to like other animators about their experience as well and like try to navigate through this like really tough time. Or did you do some of that apart from speaking to your PA?
Um no, in the moment I wasn't talking. It was like after the fact. It was
Mm,
after.
mhm, mhm.
It
Gotcha.
wasn't like during it. I wonder if that's just because I was just so tunnel vision and getting the stuff done. Um yeah, it wasn't until after the fact like I talked about it with a couple other animators that also worked in it that I was like, "Oh, okay, we all experienced the same thing." So it wasn't just me. We were all going through it. And that's okay. Well, it's not okay, but it feels comforting to know that you weren't the only one like experiencing the ups and downs of a production. Um it feels very comforting to be like, "Okay, I'm not the crazy one.
Mm-mm.
Something clearly up top is not working."
Before so the last section I do want to move into is like Q&A, but from just like
Oh yeah.
my viewers and whatnot. But before we move on, is there like any closing statements regarding your whole experience on JJK season 2?
Oh god. Was it was it a crazy production? Yes. But I truly do not honestly regret it, and I am incredibly grateful I had the opportunity in the first place. Not many people can sit there and say, "Yeah, I worked on Jujutsu Kaisen." let alone Shibuya Arc. I feel like nobody else could ever say that unless you were in that very few select like group of people. So I don't regret what happened. I'm incredibly grateful for it, and I learned a lot that going forward, um just drawing better boundaries between like me as a person and my work. That's what I took away from it. Um and also just you know, be kind and have empathy and compassion for the people who make your favorite pieces of media. Cuz like I said earlier, like they're the ones who clock in every day to make your favorite characters move, speak, breathe, fight, do anything. And it's truly like it's truly amazing how hardworking specifically people who work in anime are, because it's like passion at that point. And they're not doing it, they're not doing it because, you know, it pays them millions of dollars. It's because they truly love it. And I just hope that people will recognize that for what it is, and just like I said, have more empathy and compassion. So the next time you see that, hey, why are they showing a recap episode this week? Why are they delaying the show? Why is it on hiatus?
Yeah,
Please
don't send
understand
those weird
that.
ass DMs to the animators. They
Yeah.
have no control
Yeah,
over
it's like,
that.
don't. We have no control. But also, just next time you see that, just be a patient. Just be a little bit more patient and understand that they are doing the best that they can. We want to tell these stories in the best possible way we can. We're not trying to slack off. We're just trying to make best of what circumstances that we have at that given time and moment. So, yeah.
That was amazing. Okay, so let's go through some questions.
Thank you.
Yeah. First question: is there any animation exercise or warm ups that you like or prefer to do before starting your work?
Oh yeah. Usually it's not like an animation exercise. I just like I do these like either 30-minute or like 45-minute like sketches of something. Like I'll time myself and I'll just like draw whatever's in my mind just to loosen myself up at given time and moment. So I like to do that. That was something I learned in college from my life drawing teacher, where he would drill us. Well, he did 5-minute intervals, not 30 minutes. So that's just a carryover from college. So that's how I usually loosen up, is like, let me draw just like this really crazy pose and let's see if I can make it work in like 30 minutes. And that's like that's it. Once it's 30 minutes,
Mm.
stop. No more.
Something light to just like warm
um
up the engines.
yeah, just warm up the engines a little bit. Just a tiny bit. So that I'm not like noodling too much, not
Mm.
overthinking things too much. I've gotten to a point now where like I could probably make like full on like figure illustrations colored and everything, but that's just years of doing that type of practice.
Mm. Cool. Next question. JJK season 2 recently got a lot of rewards. What does that mean for the animators?
Hmm. I mean, thank you for giving us the awards, but I don't think it will really change anything in terms of like the schedules or pay. I think the animators will feel proud and be like, "Yeah, we did that." Cuz yeah, we did. But surprise, a lot of the awards don't really like have the same impact that most people think they do. Um if anything, it just showcases, yeah, this is a very popular title. It was really well received, and yeah, thank you for your contribution to the arts. Um it doesn't really, I don't think it really changes anything for the animators. Um I would just sure hope that it doesn't make MAPPA think that they have to produce season 3 faster. That's like my only concern, is like seeing
Mhm.
all those rewards be like, "Oh, well, we have to put it
Yeah,
out
they see dollar signs. They're like, we
sooner."
gotta milk this.
Yeah. we gotta milk this now. It's like, no, focus on your other projects. You literally have Chainsaw Man to worry about. Let's not think about it.
Aren't they working on the
We can wait.
Reze movie as well?
I guess so. Nappa works on so many projects. I don't know anymore, man.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question. When do you know your drawing level is good enough to start animating for professional work?
Oh. Hmm. I'm not sure because I still think I have a lot to improve on. So I think honestly, when you start, I think for me, when I realize like, oh, I think I'm at a level where I'm professional is when like industry professionals started following like my social media
Mm,
and stuff,
mhm.
or like commented and liked certain things. Like,
Or Okubo directly DM you? That's a pretty big deal.
yeah, I guess so. Like, I think if I learned anything in my experience, 7 experiences working animation, um, you probably are ready to work when you start catching the attention of industry professionals in the field you work in. 'Cause there are definitely
Mm, mhm.
moments where like I've gotten I've gotten job interviews where I never applied for the job whatsoever, but it's because somebody who's on like higher up, like a managerial role, liked my work and they like gave it to the recruiter and then they facilitated the meeting, the like the interview and everything. So, if your drawing is like that good that you're starting to gather the attention of like industry professionals that you admire, then I'd say you're ready. I'd say you're ready.
Mm. When you're saying, like, getting the attention of just those animators, is it from the perspective of, like, you already put in the effort to network, or does it just come naturally?
um,
Or is it like a
Gosh, I think
combo
it's a
of both?
combination of both. Yeah, I think in the beginning, it's definitely like it came naturally, and then as I kept working in
Mhm,
animation,
mhm.
the networking became like an aspect of it. Because a lot of like, yeah, like a lot of my jobs were very much of we saw your work online. We didn't know how else to contact you, or who we knew that could contact you. So we just straight up DM'd or cold emailed you. Now it's very much like a, oh hey, this person who you worked with on a prior production recommended you. Would you be interested? Yada yada yada. We've looked at your work. We feel like you'd be a good fit. So now it's like a combination, but definitely in the beginning it was like it it was a little bit more organic
Mm,
and like
mhm.
people just naturally found my stuff and not many people in America who can draw anime, I guess. So
Mhm. Makes sense. Alright. This might be a question that you can't really answer, but to your knowledge, has there been any efforts from MAPPA to improve scheduling?
mm, honestly, one, I don't have that much information about it, but I feel like it really hasn't changed. Um, because I'm thinking about my work on Buchigiri.
Mm,
Yeah, I don't think I don't know if they've actually made any substantial internal changes to ensure that won't happen again. I think they're very much like a, well, we gotta keep the train rolling. Um, I will say for the Lazarus production, I feel like that a bit better scheduled, but I just assume that's because they're dealing with like an American studio. So an American studios because they have larger budgets and investors and shareholders.
and there's, like, unions
That
too,
means
right?
yeah, they're like unions and stuff. Yeah. It's like it's really complex and America executives are very picky. So when they invest in something, they're like investing in something and they don't want it to fail. Um I feel like that's probably getting a better treatment because it's attached to like an American studio. So they can afford to have more time and resources which is why that's how like budgets tend to like translate into like animation. It's not so much it makes the art better, it just means we have more time to allow animators to animate more revisions, more retakes, or resources like, hey, we can have the 3D layouts done in this particular program, or like that type of stuff. Or like, oh, we have the budget to hire this really high level, like a list celebrity or something. Like, that's how the money translates. A lot of times in animation, it doesn't always mean the art will look banger all the time, but I don't know if JJK has actually changed the inner workings of Studio Mappa. And I wouldn't know that as somebody who's like so far removed.
Mm-hmm. I was meant to ask you this in the actual interview itself, but if you were in the position of power, let's say like CEO of Mappa, what are like 2 or 3 changes that you will make right away?
I would not I would only choose 1 to 2 projects. That would be my first
Pull
one.
off a Kyoto
I
animation?
wouldn't yeah. I I would focus on quality rather than quantity because I think I understand what the CEO is trying to go for, but in a really I think a really good analogy or like an example of this is like the Marvel Cinematic Universe versus the DC Cinematic Universe, where like it took 11 years for Infinity War and Endgame to have the impact it did, but then DC tried to do that in an extremely short amount of time and released Justice League, and it didn't have the same effect that
Mm,
the MCU did. Now, granted, everybody's tired of superheroes at this point,
right.
but my point being is it worked for the MCU because they took their time and they put out quality films regardless if you liked it or not. Like they're good standalones, and that's what made Endgame and Infinity War feel the way it did. I feel like for Mappa, if you want to be like a UFO table, Kyoto animation, let's say, you have to notice that those 2 studios, their outputs are not very high. Like, how often do you see a Kyoto animation within an anime, like a year's worth of anime?
You can count it on your
They
hands.
don't. Yeah, like you can count it only on one hand. Like even right now, I'm thinking like, what was the last thing that they made? It didn't matter because it was good, but like I can count on 2 hands the amount of Studio Mappa productions that they've made if we want to include all like the Attack on Titan parts as like individual things.
Uh-huh. Final part 1,
But
final
yeah,
the
my
ends.
final final the end part 1, part 2. But yeah, my first thing would be like, hey, we're all gonna only take on 1 or 2 projects, and that's it. Because I feel like what's the issue right now is overproduction and spreading everybody thin from the
Mm,
production side to the art side. Like everybody's stretched thin. It's insane that I've worked on 3 Mappa shows in the span of like less than a year. um that's insane. I I don't even do that for Bleach. I it's just yeah, I changed that. I feel like when you are more selective about the things you choose to adapt, you you start thinking more about, well, how can we as a studio make this the best adaptation as possible, as opposed to we need to adapt this first because it will get us more street cred. And I think that's where like studios like Kyo Annie and UFO Table like really showcase like yeah, being selective. Because now like UFO Table, they make Demon Slayer. Yeah, they started with like the Fate series, but because they spent more than a decade doing that for like the games and the animes, they developed an in-house style that's very recognizable. A compositing pipeline, a 3D pipeline that then led to Demon Slayer, which has very, very, I mean, very, very excellent animation and compositing, and just it's like that's 10 plus years worth of figuring out what the pipeline is and being selective and figuring out this works for us. Now, how can we apply that to make the best adaptation for this thing that we have?
Hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that might be the same for like I think they're also like I think they're also in charge of like the Genshin Impact anime if that's like still gonna be a thing. So it's like that's my first thing. And then second I'd be like,
I know
okay,
what it is.
unionize.
Right.
We're unionizing, guy.
You got to pay by hour.
Yeah. It's like pay by hour. Salary, man. Come on.
My yeah, random question. Why is it hard for there to be a union in Japan?
So from my understanding, um, uh, so from my understanding of how unions work in Japan, it is not an industry-wide thing. It is a company by company thing. So in America, the Animation Guild, which is the union for animation workers in America, is all of the studios. So Nickelodeon,
Holy cow.
Netflix,
Mhm.
Disney, Pixar,
They're super
DreamWorks, like they
powerful.
it's yeah, I was gonna say like it's an industry wide thing. It's not a case by case thing. Like definitely certain contracts have certain clauses and stuff to reflect for certain studios. That's totally normal. But the whole entire union represents every animation worker across America.
Mhm.
But I believe in Japan it's just only within that company. So when you have like separate unions for each company and then you come to the negotiation table for like better contracts and stuff, it's going to be harder to negotiate when it's like you're not collectively coming together in that
Yeah, what
regard.
does that even mean? Because like most animators, they're jumping from animation studio to studio.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same case for in America too. We also like jump from studio to studio, but because we're underneath a union, that means that any studio that has signed with a contract with our union, they have to abide by the union. That's wages, uh benefits, um sometimes visas depending on like the studio.
And there's a time cutoff too, right? Like you can't work until like
Uh
2 a.m.
yeah, like and even then, if that were to happen, you have to report that to the
Mhm.
union because if the union, when you report it to the union, they will step in and be like, "Hey, stop overworking your workers. You're gonna breach our contract."
Right. Makes sense.
Like, so that way, like when we're jumping from studio to studio, we're still getting the same benefits, the same pay across the whole entire country. That's why, I say unionize. But I feel like that's a little too much for them. But from my understanding, it's not like an industry wide thing. It's very much like you build a union within the company, but
Mhm.
they don't unionize together from like other companies. So I think it makes it harder for them to like negotiate in that way. Because who's to say that like you as a union company negotiate one thing, but then the people you're negotiating with fires back with, well, this company said that we don't need to do those types of things, so we just won't work with you then.
Um, this is just a personal question that popped up, and it's a fun one. But from the past, it can either be this season or from 2023. From the lens of a professional animator, what was like one anime project that you saw that was like, "Yo, this is fire"?
Oh, ooh, that's a good one. Maybe this is a cop out answer. Probably a cop out answer, but probably Frieren, um, Journey's End.
Let's go.
A coworker of mine, yeah, a coworker of mine, we were talking about anime at one point, and he was like, "Have you watched Frieren yet?" And I was like, "Oh no, I haven't gotten a chance. I was just really busy." And he was like, "Yo, you should watch that show." And I was like, "It's fantasy. I guess I'll like it." I Now that is a solid show. Like if you could like look at the dictionary and the word solid, it would just be Freeren's face. It's
Mm,
solid.
mhm.
Like directing,
The
layout,
score.
the action, the story, like it is just solid in a way where I'm like, damn, I'm really curious how their production is run. I'm very curious about that because it's just also consistent, which is, in my opinion, what I look for in shows that I enjoy is consistency. Because to me, if you can maintain that, I'm so much more impressed by that than like flashy Sakuga like fights, I guess. If that makes any sense.
Mhm, mhm.
So I would have to say Freewind. I'd be like, damn, a, a solid ass show. Um, I wish I could work on it. I probably can't, but that's okay. Um, I can appreciate it for what it is. It's like, yeah, I really enjoyed I really enjoy Freerun. It's really really good. Um, and in fact, even for my full-time job, we often like we look to Freerun to be like, "Oh, that's how we can do that shot."
Oh,
But
wow, really?
economically, yeah.
That's
Like
crazy.
surprise, yeah, surprise surprise, anime in America, it has reached so mainstream at this point that one, a lot of the people who work in American animation are weebs, but two, um the people who are like now like becoming show creators or like executives who make the decisions on what becomes a show are people who grew up watching like Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Yu Yu Hakusho, like the classics, Cowboy Bebop and stuff. Like they're the people in power now who make those decisions. And a lot of the times they're like, "Hey, can you like make it anime though?" That's what's really cool about
Right,
it.
right.
I was like, "Oh shit, yeah!" I remember for like for Spider-Man, because that's the show I worked on over at Marvel. I don't know when it's releasing, but yeah, I worked on a Spider-Man show. My very first like assignment that my supervisor director gave me, he was like, "Do you know what the Itano Circus is?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do. I watch Gundam." And that's what he wanted. He was like, "I want this particular thing I saw in Gundam in this shot." And I
So,
was
like,
like,
if you're into anime, like, it's kind of a pro if you're into in the American animation space.
yeah, it's sort of become a thing now where like if you know, if not only if you know how to draw anime, but if you understand the how to replicate the economic like usage,
Mhm,
like
mhm.
things like how to make use of like panning backgrounds and multiplane stuff, you are like so sought after.
Mm.
You're so sought after if you can do that because anime is a master at making the most of what little they have. And that we like America is now finally at that point where we want to actually start making that, but there aren't many artists who can replicate it authentically and make it feel right within an American audience. I think like the closest we'll probably ever get was like the Avatar series. But even then that was like a holy crap. I don't know how they did that either.
Mm.
But um yeah, so Frieren, if anybody's watching, solid ass show.
Hell
Go
yeah.
watch Frieren.
And, like, for you personally, how do you separate, I guess, you just overanalyzing, you watching anime, separate that from enjoyment? Is it, like, are
Oh,
you able to separate it, or are you, like, when you're watching anime, you're, like, analyzing frame by frame?
mm. If it's like a show that like I'm truly like I'm impressed by, like Frieren, then I'll analyze it.
Mm, mhm.
But but most of the times when like I go into like watching animes, it's always just for pure entertainment reasons, especially if like I start noticing things like, oh no, they broke this rule. Oh no, that's not good. Then I'm like, okay, time to turn it off. Can't think about it anymore.
Mhm.
I can't think about this now. It's gonna make me angry. It's gonna make me angry. But most of the times, if it's like if it's a show I actually really like, and I'm very impressed by, then I'll start analyzing it. Because then it makes it fun for me. Then where like once I'm done with the episode, I'll like go back and be like, how did they do that one
Mm,
thing? And I'll try to like
mhm.
reverse engineer it, and that's what makes it fun for me. Because I'm just an animation like fanatic at the end of the day.
What was your favorite character to draw in JJK, and what character do you want to draw?
Oh, my favorite character I got to draw in JJK was Nobata. Simply because she's like easy to draw, but I didn't realize like how cool her design was like while drawing her. I was like, wow, this design is like really well this is really well designed. Okay. So she was probably my favorite to draw. Um just for funsies, the person I hated drawing the most was Mahito. I hated drawing Mahito. I hated drawing.
I mean, I hate him as a character as well, so
Was it like it's not so much his character? It's just like, his design just aggravated me. It's just so many details. Like the details of like his scars on his face would drive me insane.
Mm,
And then like his hair, like oh my god. Anyway, but yeah, least favorite character to draw Mahito. I did not like drawing him. Character I wish I could have drawn either Nanami or Megumi. They're my
mm.
favorite characters. So I am sad that I didn't get to draw either of them, but in the show's defense, I don't think I could have done it justice. I don't think I could have done any of them justice, but yeah, I'm just glad I got to draw one Yuji because that's my younger sister's favorite character, and then like I sent it to her and she was like, "Oh, my boy." So, but yeah,
That's
I
super
wish I could have
awesome.
drawn Nanami.
Yeah, not I mean, oh man, I mean, no spoilers, but that still
Yeah,
gets
no
to me.
spoilers. I was spoiled as I worked on the show,
Oh,
so
really?
don't do it. Well, yeah, because like they're like, "Oh, did you read the manga?" And I was like, "I only saw season one. What happens?" And then I got told, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's rough.
No, it's really
That's
funny
rough. That
because
that happened."
yeah, in Crunchyroll, I think the first episode of season two was no. So past the Gojo, like past his part where like he was
Yeah,
in high school, when it's like back to present time, there was like one filler
yeah,
episode, and then in the comments they're like, "Enjoy this, guys, because this is the last happy episode in JJK."
yeah.
And then
It
Shibuya,
was
it's like, "Woo, everybody!"
yeah. It was done. Like my older sister has read all of it, and I remember going up to her room and being like that was it. That was just I was just like, and she sat there and like, yeah, I know. I was very distraught about it. I was like, oh my god, I know this information, and I didn't want to know this information.
Are you hopeful for the future of anime? Just the industry, working conditions, the whole gamut.
I actually kind of am since we're at a point where anime where it's left the domestic sphere that is Japan, and it's entered mainstream media. Um and as more and more people who from outside of Japan work in anime, I feel like having those different perspectives will help. I think they will help inform like alternatives to a pipeline that maybe just not might work anymore in current modern day. Because it probably worked very well in the beginning of anime, but I feel like now that it's pretty much become like a cultural staple across around the world at this point, that I don't know, it's hard to say. I am hopeful but I'm also like kind of realistic and I'm not expecting that to change within like the next year, 5 years or 10 years. I think that would require a lot of like open-mindedness from like the Japanese like business side of things
Mm,
to be willing to admit admit that okay, maybe we do need to change how we do things. And then on top of that, making like the active effort of following through that change in general. This is something that even American studios still struggle with to this day. Um, I just think it's gonna take a lot. It's just gonna take a lot for that change to happen. But I think the more Japan has exposure to different perspectives of like, yeah, we could do it this way, like you always done, but there's a more efficient way of doing this. We can present it as an alternative, not the end all be all. I think it would help open their minds a little bit more to be like, oh, we don't need to make an episode 3 months before the airing date. We can make it a year in advance, which is like, yeah, that's how it should be done. Mainly because, you make sure you finish everything on time, you're not working to the last minute, overworking people. But also within that year, you can like catch a lot of like the production pipeline problems that you're probably facing right now because it's so compact that there literally isn't any time to address it in the first place. You just got to keep on going. So I'm hopeful that it will change as a whole with initiatives like the like animators dormitory
mhm.
and stuff. Because I don't think it's not that they don't want that. I just think it's a matter of like coming together and standing your ground, which is probably really daunting for them given their like culture and society that's much more about, you know, the group and respecting a hierarchy, an invisible hierarchy as opposed to in America where we're more than happy to voice our
Mhm,
opinions
mhm.
on stuff. Um I think that just will have to like, you know, it has to build over time. But I'm very hopeful for it. Like if they allow me, a girl from Jersey, to work on a show, I can only hope that would mean that it will open their minds to different solutions at the end of the day. So, yeah, I'm hopeful.
I love that. You brought up, I guess, like Jersey a couple of times. I guess like part of that is because you're kind of it's surreal for you that you're coming from this place across the sea, really far away from Japan, and you get to work on something like JJK. Does it sometimes like hit you that you got this opportunity?
Yeah, it does. Like, it's honestly just like working in animation in general, it's something I think about every day because it's truly a childhood dream come true. Because I had sought to do this job at the tender age of 9. Um, but also just like I didn't grow up with having resources. Like I I didn't touch my first tablet until I was like 16 or 17 at like a college, like a open day house thing.
Wow.
Um I didn't have a good art teacher until I had like entered high school and he was the only one who pushed me hard enough. I didn't have any role models in my life that I could look towards to be like, ah, that's what I want to do because there's not many people who look like me in the animation space, specifically in America, which is like kind of weird given that America is a melting pot of sorts. But a lot of like there weren't a lot of female creators who like made their own shows, were directors, like that type of stuff. So it does feel surreal because I am just I am just a girl from New Jersey who has a once in a lifetime opportunity to work on some of the like biggest shows and titles that millions of people watch. And it's so it's so weird to think about that. It's
Mm,
like, yeah, I sat there and I drew Nobara. Like, I don't know how else to wrap my head around that. Um, I drew her. I made her move. I made her breathe. Like, I don't know. It's just truly surreal. And so every single day, I'm just like, I'm I'm so grateful that I have this opportunity because I don't know what else I would do with my life if I didn't. No, that's a lie. I'd probably be a teacher. Um, but yeah, it's also like a way for me to communicate with people. Like, I'm not as special as you think I am. Like, you could do it too. Like, it's not impossible. Is it gonna be a long journey? Yes. But it's not impossible for you to do. So that's why whenever I meet somebody who like um I guess knows me and they catch me in the wild of Los Angeles, they're like, "Oh my god." It's like I'm no one special. I am a human. I'm just a girl from Jersey. If I can do it, you can do it. Um if that's the only like thing I could tell y'all is just, "Hey, pursue your anime weave dream because if I can do it, you can do it."
mm, nice. And then, final question: what is like your end goal with all of this? Are you trying to become an executive? Are you trying to become a director?
Hmm. That's a really good question because at this point,
Yeah, you're still like
my honest,
figuring it out, right?
it's not so much I'm figuring out. It's the honest truth is like I've already achieved the thing I wanted to do, which is like
Mm,
work in animation. So honestly, at this point, anything that comes my way in my head is just a bonus or like a blessing. So like, yeah, it's not so much I don't have an end goal. Like, yeah, I would love to direct someday. Yeah, I would love to have my show one day. Yeah, it'd be so fucking cool if I did my own anime. Mm. Don't know about that, but like, yeah, I do have these goals in life, but honestly, like, I've already achieved what I wanted to achieve, so I'm just kind of taking it in strides and taking the extra opportunity as like a, you know what? I'm just gonna take this. I appreciate it. Let's just keep going and see how far I get. Um, yeah, I don't know if there's really like an end goal. Maybe like retirement, that's my end goal.
mhm,
Having a pension plan, that's my end
mhm.
goal.
No, but you're in a very beautiful position. I feel like you're in bonus time right now, and I
Mhm.
see a thread in just like your insights. There's a level of gratefulness when you're in that bonus time.
Oh yeah, because I just feel like I can't afford to not appreciate it
Mhm,
or learn as much as I can from it. Because again, like how many people like how many people can sit there and say, yeah, I did that. I worked on these shows and movies and stuff. Let alone getting to like you getting a chance to interview somebody who worked on Jujutsu Kaisen, like that's in itself like a rarity.
mm, mhm.
Um, it's just you can't I can't help but feel that gratitude towards it, and maybe because of that, that's why opportunities keep coming to me. Maybe I don't know. But I just feel like that's how I grew up, and like that's how my parents like raised me was just like, be grateful for the things that you have because we didn't have a lot. So whatever we had, we made the most of it. And I guess I'm glad I carried that throughout my like upbringing into like my career and my everyday life. But yeah, I wish I had an answer for the end goal, but maybe the end goal really is just retirement.
Yeah, and just be chilling at like Central Park and like be one of those grannies just drawing portraits of nature.
Oh, yeah. And then that's just it. That's just my life.
That's the American dream right there.
The American dream. I'm drawing pigeons in Central Park. That's the American dream. Didn't you guys know?
Let's go. All right. So you gave closing thoughts about working on JJK. I kind of want to go back to the point where like you're talking to that up and coming animator that's about to break into the market. person that didn't see a lot of female role models. I want you to like drive that point home, and that can be like your closing thought.
Oh my god. Honestly, it just feels like I'm talking to little me, so I apologize if I get like
No,
emotional
no
or like
worries.
teary-eyed or anything. Um, I guess to you, the person who is watching this, like me, you aspired to work in anime, or you aspired to work in animation in general, and you felt like you never got to see yourself in the shows that you watched, the games that you played, the movies that you got to go see. Please know that we are there. We are present. We like you are not alone and you can do this. 'Cause I feel like for a very long time it felt like even for myself that I couldn't do it because I couldn't see myself whether on screen or behind the screen. But that's not the case anymore. Um there are plenty of people who look like us, whether that's like skin tone, gender, sexual identity, or anything. We're here, we're visible, and you can do it too. So please keep creating. Don't give up and just keep having hope and be yourself. And yeah. That's it.
You can't wrap it up any better than that. So, guys, that was the rundown. Hopefully, you got some value, some inspiration from Lee's journey. And Lee, I'm really looking forward to just any upcoming milestones that you hit. And I just wish you the best.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you again for reaching out to me to do this interview. You were incredibly like respectful, very good transitions too. Um,
Hey, this is
just
my passion. The passion you have for animation. This is the passion I have for YouTube.
wow. I gotta learn how to do YouTube better though.
Yeah, I'm always a DM away. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time, peace out.